Prison reform is one of the issues at the heart of our nation's current conversation regarding race relations in America. Valerie Schultz has some inside information on that. She spent 14 years working in a prison library and wrote a book about the experience called Overdue, a Dewey Decimal System of Grace. And Valerie, first, what did you learn about the prison system while you were working there?
Well, the system in general has a whole lot of problems, mostly having to do with, I think, who goes to prison. It's a very sort of skewed population of people who don't have the resources, especially for legal representation, who end up doing more prison time than probably equally guilty people who have more resources and better representation.
What do you think is the role of prisons in our society? Is it retribution, deterrence? Is it rehabilitation?
We had a saying when I worked there that today's inmate is tomorrow's neighbor, because most inmates are released from prison at some point. And so I firmly believe that rehabilitation is the only sane way to design our prison systems. We want to give people tools to rejoin society. We want to have them not keep coming back. There's a real revolving door with a lot of inmates. And so the more tools we can give them, and I also think the more compassion we show them and humanity, it makes a difference when they are released, and it's better for all of society.
Okay, prison reform is a big issue in the Black Lives Matter movement. There have been calls for better living conditions for prisoners, decreasing levels of mass incarceration, lessening the harshness of certain drug laws. Have you seen any improvements in those areas?
Yes, actually, during the time I worked in the California state system, a lot of reforms happened. Many of these were because they were under a federal mandate to reduce the population because of overcrowding. So they found kind of more humane parole boards to give people a chance to parole. They introduced a lot of educational and vocational programs. I got to see the beginning of face-to-face college courses in prison, which was just a revelation for a lot of these guys. And those are just some of the things that help instead of hurt our end goal, which is to have people rejoin society.
Right. And what about bail reform? New laws took effect in New York City last year that are now being rolled back. Then the pandemic happened, and they released a lot of accused offenders out into the streets. Just this weekend, we saw a lot of violence in New York City. What do you think about bail reform?
I think many people spend way more time in jail than they should before they're even tried, just because when they're charged with something, their families can't afford the bail. And so once again, it's skewed towards people who can come up with the money to spring their loved ones from jail before they're ever even tried or before they plead to anything. And so I really believe that cash bail is a terrible system, and I'm glad to see it going by the wayside.
So if you could make one reform of the prison system, what would it be?
You know, it's kind of a vague concept, but I think changing the culture inside prisons, and that's especially, staff, free staff and correctional officers, that instead of feeling like we're doing some good, a lot of times we treat other people as less than human, refer to them as animals, or, that kind of idea, I think, is so destructive to all people, the people treating people that way, and of course the people who are being treated that way. It doesn't do any good at all. And I think there is a real shift in culture coming, but it takes time.
All right, Valerie Schultz, thanks for lending your insight on this.
Thanks for having me.
If you're watching Currents News on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then click on the bell to get instant updates about all of our newest content, because we are putting your faith in the news.